Do you want to know how to smoke a nice, big, juicy brisket? Well, today we're going to do that. We're going to cook one on the offset smoker. Let's get to it. So the first step is the night before prep. So first we're going to trim up the brisket to have about a 1/4 inch of fat on that fat cap. That allows us to keep just enough fat that will render down and allow to keep our brisket from drying out and give it a nice, moist, juicy result. But we're going to remove the excess fat that won't render down and will sit there and ruin the cook and won't render down. Once we've trimmed it down to a 1/4 inch of fat, we're going to rub it up. Use whatever rub you want. Today I'm using Butcher's Axe Bullseye because this is a great beef rub and it goes great on brisket, beef, short ribs, anything beef. It's just awesome. So make sure you coat the sides, the top, underneath, the bottom. Make sure you get a really liberal amount across this entire brisket. You want to give it a nice coat. Flip it over, do the same thing, and pat rub it in. Now this brisket's ready for the pit. Time to fire up the pit. So we're using Heat Beads charcoal briquettes, and for our smoking wood, we're using log splits of Aussie ironbark. So once that's fully lit, we can get our brisket on. Today, we're working at a pit temperature of 250 Fahrenheit for the entire length of the cook. So now that our coals are lit up, we'll get our wood on, we'll let this catch light, and then we can get our brisket on. And then we're going to come back in about an hour to give it its first spritz. Every hour or so, we are spraying it with apple juice just to keep it moist and to stop our nice bark from drying out. So we've hit 160 Fahrenheit internal and we've hit the stall. So what we're going to do is wrap it. Instead of fully wrapping it though, we're going to create a boat of tinfoil. Basically, instead of covering the whole brisket, we're going to wrap it in a boat type shape around the outside. That way it doesn't destroy our nice bark, but allows it to almost marinate in those juices and keep the brisket moist, stop it from drying out, keep our bark, and it's going to give us a great final result. So our fire's still burning strong, we'll give it a quick spritz and come back in another hour. So we're 12 hours into this cook. And our wireless smart thermometer is showing us that we are sitting at around 198 Fahrenheit. What we're aiming for is around that 200, 202, 205 Fahrenheit area, but it could be either side of that. What we really need to do is probe for tenderness on all sides of the brisket. Let's have a look. So you can see here with the thermometers probing, 187 roughly, so nowhere near done, and it wasn't probing right through. But through there's almost no resistance. It's 190, maybe a little bit more on there. 181. So you notice this side up here is a lot more done. Well, it feels a lot more, there's less resistance than over this side. Probably because this side's closer to the flyer. So we might rotate this around, but really you want every edge of your brisket to probe like butter, just straight through, regardless of what the temp is. It'll all be around the same area. What you'll find is some are going to be harder than other areas and it's not done. You've got to try and find that balance between it all being pretty well probed and done, but then some not being overdone to the point where it's falling apart, and then, you know, some is not done and it's still rough. It's finding that sweet spot. If you have to rotate your meat around, you know, to give different exposure to the areas in the cooking chamber, do that. It's just a real game of when you want to make the call that you think all of it's done enough, and yeah, it's a lot of trial and error, but you're aiming for that complete probing like butter tenderness. We'll come back and check this in another hour or so, and I reckon we'll be close to it. Okay, our wireless smart thermometer is reading at around 202 Fahrenheit, and we're just probing this thing now for tenderness, and it is probing right through like butter on every side of the brisket. Time to get this thing off and rest it in the esky for an hour. Okay, so we've taken the brisket off the pit, and now we're going to pour over those juices that we saved from earlier. Whilst we're resting this thing, these juices are going to just be soaked right up, and it's going to give us a really moist and juicy final result while getting that bark softened for us, ready to slice. So now that we've done that, we're going to wrap this thing up in the tin foil. I've got about 5 or 6 layers here of tin foil, and we're going to wrap it up really neatly and really tightly. We want this brisket really well insulated while it's resting. Now that we've done that, we're going to get it into the esky wrapped in a towel, and the temperature should even go up over the next couple of hours, allow all the juices to go back into the brisket and give us the best possible result. You do not skip this step. Let's check it again in a couple of hours. Woo! Look at that. That bark looks great. So it's been resting in the esky for about 2 hours. Total cook time of 15 hours. Time to slice. And that is going through with very little resistance. And look at that smoke ring. Keeping the bark perfectly intact. A perfect colour on the smoke ring. Very juicy. And we're getting no force really on this when we're slicing. We're getting those perfect pencil thin slices. The colour looks great. It's very tender. Look at those juices. The smoke ring's incredible. And this is a great result. Take a look at that. And that's how you know it's not overdone too. It's not falling into little shreds as you're slicing it. You're getting those perfect thin slices, but while maintaining that perfectly juicy, tender result. And look at that, just pulls apart. That is an excellent result. And there you have it, offset smoker brisket. Cheers guys, don't forget to subscribe. I'm Mark from Grill Mark's Barbecue. Cheers.